NerdQuest is a movie that I am glad exists. And that probably doesn't sound like a glowing recommendation, but stick with me here. For those of you not familiar, NerdQuest is a crowd-funded 65-minute-long feature film directed by Mike Jevons, who you might know better as Mike J, and produced by Matt Williams, who you probably know better as Welshie. It is a film about nerds. Not so much on a quest as LARPing, but that's not the point. The point is that 5-ish years ago, a bunch of people spent about 8 days, I was there 3, in some woods in darkest, soggiest Buckinghamshire, making a movie about a LARP event that turns into actual murder. And it was so much fun. I mean, I arrived on the Monday because I'm not in any of the night scenes, and they just finished the night shoot, and everyone was scunnered. And then we filmed in the woods for 2 days, while everything around us slowly turned to mud and despair. But still, there's a scene in the film where we're meant to be dancing and partying and having a really good time, and I basically did a lot of swishing my dress around because I couldn't really move my feet, because every time I did, it made a large sucking noise. Plus, I was in a single layer of stretch velvet in a July when it rained constantly. Luckily, I came prepared with boots, which were never the same again. Never the same again, really. Mike's then fiancée, now wife, Grace, fed us. I desperately tried to keep my necromancer staff out of the mud because it's not really supposed to get wet. And I was very glad of my amazing Chinese bun style updo, because if you're gonna be filming for 3 days, 10 hours a day, in rain and wind and stuff, and you don't have a mirror, updos are your friend. If you're into hair tutorials and you'd like to know how to do a Chinese bun / Marie style updo, there is a link. Up here, probably. But look, you're actually here for a review of NerdQuest, right? So, NerdQuest is perhaps a movie that tries more than it succeeds, but I'm still glad it's a thing that exists. And if you haven't seen it, then this review is going to be spoilerific, and there are actual decent twists in it which you may not anticipate, which I would like you to experience. So you should either go to the link, which is up here, or Mike Jevons' YouTube channel, or go to the description box. Yes, those still exist, and find yourself a link. In fact, you may have been watching my live stream of the movie, which went up just before this video did. Right, everybody back? Great. The plot, it goeth thusly. This is John, a total dork whose dad died a few years back. He enjoys LARPing. For his birthday, he invites his friends to LordQuest, a LARPing event in the middle of nowhere / Buckinghamshire. Gavin, John, David, and Dom arrive, immediately have their mobile devices taken for authenticity's sake by Cougar, a dude in a crown and a cape he likes to dramatically swish about. The place is generally a bit disappointing. David tries to hit on the only woman in the forest, which goes real well. Our heroes take part in a rubbish mock battle. A guy gets his eye put out and Cougar has to take him to the hospital. The tent has an annoyingly sticky zip which doesn't work properly, and all in all they're generally miserable. Next morning, everyone's gone. Because they're dead, or about to die. And so our heroes make their way through the woods. David is murdered and Dom gets kidnapped by the villain who turns out to be... Wait, me? I mean, her? But where is her boyfriend? You know, the ginger. Oh dear.
I am not being killed by a ginger.
Car-related shenanigans, we find out that John's dad died under mysterious circumstances remarkably similar to these. The nervous guy we picked up earlier dies. Dom gets stabbed in the shoulder. Really not doing well, is he? And the ginger guy is not the villain? Wait, it's Cougar? John gets killed and 1,000 film brain fangirls wince in sympathy. Gavin kills Cougar and credits roll. There are a lot of things I like about NerdQuest, not just that I was in it. I like the fact that everything in the LARPing battle foreshadows everything that happens in the rest of the movie. We never see Gavin die. David is hit from behind, Dom is stunned by Marie and then stabbed in the shoulder, and John is stabbed to death by someone he thought was his friend. I also like that they unmask Marie when she's lying on the ground, because, really, why would you not do that? Also, the costume smelled like a teenage boy inside, and so I was really glad they let me lie there with, like, the face covering off. Incidentally, that is not me getting hit on the head with sugar glass. The general sentiment being, we just met you, we're not gonna hit you over the head with a bottle, which I guess fair enough. I like that it's John who kicks off the plot, but that it's Gavin who's the hero of the piece. Gavin is the one who steps up and takes action, and he's the one who gets the most defined arc. He goes from, do I care, really, to the one who makes the plans and tries his best to get them out of there. John hides things, like really important things, from his friends, and ultimately he pays the price for it. I like that none of the heroes are completely irredeemable twerps. They may be grumpy or act like jerks or act like they don't really like each other much, but there is a sense of camaraderie there which lends the movie some heart. And it's probably because they do really genuinely like each other in real life. Turns out movie making in somewhat arduous conditions can be bonding experience. NerdQuest was shot on film, so it's not in HD. The light was not great, the weather was atrocious, and technical issues meant that it needed some pretty heavy colour correction, which you can probably still see. It's quite blue in places. Like, not metaphorically blue, I mean literally blue. The aforementioned weather issues meant that everyone was wet through for at least 2 solid days. The script had to be hacked down, no pun intended, because there wasn't enough time or light to shoot it. And there are lots of places where the budget, such as it wasn't, does show. But it exists. And that it exists is a testament to every single person who showed up and rolled with the challenges and got on with whatever needed to be done and made the thing. Because ultimately, to borrow from Theodore Roosevelt for a second, and despite what YouTube would have you think, it's not the critic who counts. Credit belongs to the man who does actually strive to do the deeds, who spends himself in a worthy cause. As much as I love to pick apart movies and what makes them work and what doesn't, and as much as people on YouTube, prefer that, ultimately it's much more fun to make your own thing, however flawed it might be. After all, if you've made something and you see some things which you don't like about it, then you can now do better next time, right? There is something about making something and going from the start of the project right the way through to completion that is just so much better than starting 12 things and never finishing any of them. Even if the thing you finish doesn't have the amazing potential of the 12 things that you started, it's complete, which none of those 12 things are. And there is value in getting it done, which may well be a pretty solid moral for a lot of areas of life, actually. Happy All Hallows, slightly early. If you liked this episode, do subscribe. Thank you, as always, to my patrons, and I'll see you all next time. I promise I'm not aiding and abetting a bearded serial killer with a flair for the dramatic in real life. Well, not as far as I know.